Before we begin, please press the like button and the subscribe button. In the world of cybersecurity, we tend to picture these hackers using brute force, smashing through digital walls. But what if the most dangerous threats aren't the ones breaking down the door, but the ones that politely trick you into opening it for them? Well, today we're going to unmask one of those very threats. So let me just ask you this straight up. How confident are you, really, in your defenses? It's a serious question because the game is definitely changing. We're seeing new, way more sophisticated attacks pop up, and they're designed specifically to get around our standard ideas of what's safe and what isn't. And that brings us right to this deceptively simple threat called the ClickFix exploit. What's so wild about this one is that its power doesn't come from some super complex code. Nope, it comes from some really clever psychology. At its core, the ClickFix exploit is all about social engineering. See, the attacker isn't trying to outsmart your computer, they're trying to outsmart you. They basically trick you into doing all the heavy lifting for them. It all works by manipulating a user into running malicious commands by hijacking something we all use a million times a day without thinking, the clipboard. So how in the world does this actually happen? How does a simple copy and paste, something we do constantly, turn into a catastrophic security breach? Let's break down the anatomy of the attack. It happens in 3 simple but kind of brilliant steps. First up is the lure. You're just browsing a website and a very professional-looking pop-up appears. Something like Word Online extension is missing, or maybe a Cloudflare security check. It looks totally legit. Step 2, the hijack. The pop-up tells you to click a button, maybe fix it or copy. So you do, thinking you're copying a solution. But what's really happening is you're silently copying a hidden, malicious command to your clipboard. And then finally, step 3 is the execution. The instructions tell you to open the run dialog. That's Windows key plus R, paste the command, and hit enter. And bam, just like that, you, the user, have personally launched the attack on your own system. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'd never fall for that. But the whole reason this exploit is spreading so fast is because it's specifically engineered to bypass our usual mental and our digital safeguards. Let's dive into why this thing is such a huge threat. First off, this isn't just for people who aren't tech-savvy. The lore is incredibly convincing, often because it mimics a legitimate Microsoft security warning or a familiar app update. It's designed to make you feel a sense of urgency, to build trust, and it causes even really experienced users to let their guard down for just a split second. And here's the kicker. Your standard antivirus program, it probably won't see this coming. Why? Because the attack uses a perfectly legitimate Windows tool, like PowerShell or the Windows terminal, to run its dirty work. So the security software just sees a trusted program being started by the user, and it doesn't raise any red flags. The malware basically just walks right in through the front door. And this is where one person's tiny mistake becomes the entire organization's total nightmare. Once an attacker gets a foothold on just one machine, they can often escalate their privileges and start moving sideways across the whole network. That one small click can seriously lead to a complete network takeover. Okay, so that's the threat. It's clever, it's sneaky, it's dangerous. But now, let's switch gears. Let's talk less about the problem and more about the solution. It's time to talk about building your digital fortress and how to actually defend against attacks, just like ClickFix. It really all boils down to a solid 3-point defense plan. Number 1, train your team. Number 2, invest in the right professional tools. And number 3, you have to maintain rigorous data backups. Let's take a quick look at each of these. This brings us to probably the most important truth when it comes to social engineering attacks. Your people are your first and honestly your best line of defense. Regular training is absolutely essential. It doesn't have to be long or boring, but it has to be consistent. You've got to teach everyone to recognize suspicious links, to be super wary of unusual pop-ups, and to question any instruction that asks them to run commands manually. Look, the days of just installing a simple antivirus program and calling it good they're long gone. For a threat like this, you just need more. This means investing in more advanced solutions, or maybe even hiring a managed services provider who can actively monitor your network for unusual behavior, not just for known viruses. And finally, we have your safety net. If the absolute worst happens, a reliable backup is the lifeline that's going to get your business up and running again. But seriously, ask yourself, when was the last time you actually tested your backups? This whole process needs to be automated, it needs to be tested regularly, and it needs to be stored securely where an attacker can't touch it. So the ultimate takeaway here is what we can call the vigilance mandate, right? Cybersecurity isn't just a product you go out and buy, it's a culture you have to build. It's this ongoing proactive state of awareness. And hey, if you need a business case for that kind of vigilance, here it is, plain and simple. Taking these proactive steps is always better, and way cheaper than cleaning up the financial and reputational mess from a breach that could have been prevented. Which leaves us with one last critical question for you to think about. We've established that your people are your #1 defense against these kinds of attacks. So take a hard look at your team, look at your training, and ask yourself, is your first line of defense truly ready for what's out there?